So the Winter Olympics wrapped up this week, and what a time it was for the USA. America! Bleep, yeah. Can't say the actual term, but you get it. Anyway, the men's hockey team, they beat Canada in overtime to win the gold medal, their first gold since the Miracle on Ice year in 1980. And, oh, by the way, I have to mention this just because that overtime goal was scored by my boy from the New Jersey Devils, Jack Hughes, baby. Yes, I'm a huge Jack. Well, anyone who saw Lisa live on Monday knows what a huge Jack Hughes fan was, since what a huge Jack Hughes fan I am, since I was wearing my Jack Hughes t-shirt that Monday when I was on Lisa's show. Also, the women's hockey team, they also won the gold, also in overtime, also against Canada. You've also got Alyssa Liu, who actually stepped away from figure skating for a couple years because she no longer felt any joy doing it. So then she comes back on her own terms, puts on a killer routine, and wins the gold, and does nothing to contain her excitement over her accomplishment. And nor should she. So, just so many feel-good stories that we should all be celebrating. But because this is current year, we can't do that. Why? Because flippin' politics has to infect every aspect of our lives. You've got people upset the U.S. men's hockey team got invited to the State of the Union this week. You got people who are upset because one of the players, Tage Thompson, who also plays for the Buffalo Sabres, was wearing a MAGA hat. The Huffington Post, which I'm actually surprised is still around, they wrote an article lamenting the fact people are waving flags and feeling good about the men's hockey team and the United States as a whole. Then you've got the controversy over the women's hockey team turning down the president's invitation to the White House. You even have Olympic athletes who are saying they were not particularly proud to represent their country because they don't like the guy who's currently living in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And because things aren't crazy enough, now you have people on social media telling you that, shall we say, telling people of a certain political persuasion that you're not allowed to celebrate Alyssa Liu's gold medal because she doesn't think the same way that you do. As the saying goes, I guess we just can't have nice things anymore. The Olympics, excuse me, sports in general, that should be escapism. Sports in general, the Olympics in particular, this should be our escapism. This should be apolitical. The Olympics should be a time when we say, hey, regardless of whatever issues we're having in this country, regardless of whoever's the president, we should come together, cheer on our athletes, and celebrate our country. And the athletes who say they're not proud to represent the United States, the people who don't like us cheering for Team USA because of who happens to be sitting in the Oval Office, I got news for you. The United States of America is more than just who happens to be president. It's about the people who go to work every day and raise their families and try to better their communities. It's about the people who put themselves in harm's way, like our military, especially right now, since I think we all woke up and realized, oh man, our military forces in the Middle East are now bombing Iran, but the people put themselves in harm's way. The military, police, firefighters, EMTs. It's about our history. It's about our freedoms. It's about having the opportunity to better the circumstances of your life. Now, people who want to criticize us celebrating our Olympic athletes and showing patriotism, they'll point out all the bad things that have happened throughout the history of our country. And how can we feel good about a country that has done so many bad things? Well, newsflash, every country has its warts, some more than others. And the thing is, a lot of the problems that we've had in this country, we've self-corrected. Not all of them, obviously, but quite a few of them. And here's the thing. Usually, it's not the government who took the initiative on that. It was just regular American citizens who said, you know what? This ain't right, and we're going to raise a stink about it until we make it right. Good example of that, I think, is slavery. A lot of people point to slavery as one of America's biggest faults, which it was. But what they conveniently leave out is the fact that we fought a war where something like 500,000 people died in order to end slavery. And even well before the Civil War, you had a big abolitionist movement in the U.S. In fact, there was one guy, Cassius Clay was his name. He would go on to become a Kentucky state representative and also was the U.S. ambassador to Russia during the Civil War. Well, this is a guy who hated slavery so much, he would actually challenge pro-slavery people to duels. Not wrestling duels. I'm talking about duels where you point pistols at one another. And he won every single duel. By the way, the Fat Electrician, the YouTuber, he has a really excellent episode about the life of Cassius Clay. And you want to talk about a guy who was just an absolute total alpha Chad. Highly recommend you check it out. But like I said, there's more to the country than simply who's a Democrat, who's a Republican, who's a conservative, who's a liberal. Unfortunately, I think too many people have lost sight of that to the point where we can't even all come together anymore and celebrate our hockey teams winning gold medals. And honestly, I think it even goes beyond just simple politics. I think you just have people out there who are what I call joy vampires. They're eternally miserable, and their philosophy, unfortunately, is if I'm going to be miserable, well, then I'm going to do what I can to make everyone else in the world feel miserable too. They can't stand seeing anyone having a good time or celebrating everything, so they want to ruin it. And they'll justify it by saying, how can you be happy when there are so many problems in the world? Well, because we should take the time to do things and celebrate things that make us happy. Otherwise, we'll turn into angry, joyless sacks of meat emitting an aura of negative energy, and that's not going to be good for your mental or your physical health. Well, actually, I'm sure Dr. Hancock, who follows this show at 9 a.m., I'm sure he can speak more knowledgeably over how a negative state of mind can affect your physical health more than I ever could. Heck, even during World War II, soldiers in combat would get breaks to go to USO shows. Well, you know what? I'm proud of our men's and women's hockey teams for winning the gold medal. I'm also happy for Alyssa Liu for winning her gold medal. And I don't care what her political beliefs are. For all I care, Alyssa Liu can think the earth is flat and she can worship a head of lettuce. If she actually did that, I would think she's kind of weird, but I would still celebrate her gold medal and say, good on you, Alyssa. I also don't think throwing tantrums over, whoever meets I also don't agree with throwing tantrums over athletes who meet the president, whether I like that president or not. Unlike these tools on this CTV show up in Canada who were outraged that Austin Matthews, who happens to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs and who was Team USA captain, well, they were outraged that he dared meet Donald Trump along with the rest of the U.S. men's hockey team. Again, I don't care if I like the president or not. You win the gold medal, you win a championship. It's kind of tradition. You get invited to the White House. You go there, you shake hands, you say, congratulations, thanks for having us here. You know what? If you want to be miserable because of America's accomplishments in the Winter Olympics, then be miserable. Just shut up and keep it to yourself so we don't have to put up with it. Actually, on second thought, you know what? If you want to spew it out to the world. Because you know what? We'll just ignore you. Or if we're in the mood, we'll point and laugh at you. Anyway, congratulations to our Olympic athletes who won medals over there in Italy. And congratulations on Italy for being such a great host there. Even though I wouldn't have minded if Italy maybe took a page out of France when they did their opening ceremonies for the Summer Olympics. They had Gojira there at the opening ceremonies. Italy has some great metal bands. They got Lacuna Coil, Temperance, Frozen Crown. I think they could have had one of those bands do the opening ceremonies, too. I think that would have been really cool, man. Anyway, 928-541-1016, number to call here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. Again, 928-541-1016. Well, speaking of great athletic accomplishments, Embry-Riddle Wrestling, they were in the Cascade Collegiate Conference tournament last week. They brought home 3 individual champions, 2 runners-up. They got 9 guys heading to the national tournament, which takes place next week. And we're going to be talking to some of them. I got Coach KYCA Rock in the studio with me, along with 2 of his wrestlers, Landon Smith and Adam Stanley. So we'll talk to them on the other side of the break. We'll be back right after this. We are back here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. John Rust with you here in the studio with me this morning. I have Coach KYCA Rock from the Embry-Riddle Wrestling team. By the way, ranked number 9 in the last NAIA national poll that I checked. Also got 2 of his wrestlers. I got Landon Smith and we got Adam Stanley. Guys, good morning and thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having us, John.
All right, so Coach, let's get started with you here. Great doings up at Salem, Oregon last weekend in the Cascade Collegiate Conference Championship Tournament. 3 guys won individual titles. You also had 2 guys who were runners-up and a lot of other guys placing. You're sending 9 guys to the national tournament, and overall as a team, Embry-Riddle placed 3rd. So, Coach, your thoughts on Embry-Riddle's accomplishments in that tournament? Again, Cascade Collegiate Conference, probably one of the, if not the toughest conference for wrestling in the NAIA.
Yeah, it is one of the, if not the best qualifying tournament to get to the national tournament. It's kind of just survive, get through the tournament. 5 guys in the finals, 3 champs. Landon, who's here with us today, battling a couple things, so we ended up medical forfeiting in the finals there against a kid we'd already beaten during this season, so probably would have been 4 champs and 1 runner-up. Kenny Copley was also the outstanding wrestler of the tournament. So, yeah, it was a good weekend up there. And like I said, sometimes it's just getting through that tournament in one piece and trying to be healthy when you get home on Monday.
Yeah. And, well, Landon, like you said, you unfortunately missed out on the championship tournament due to a medical issue. But, just talk about what it was like for you going through the rest of those matches to get up to that championship tournament.
Yeah, as Coach said, it was really just survive. The first few matches I get out there, it's just looking to score points, getting warmed up for the weekend. And then as you get deeper into the bracket, it's just that's when things really turn up and it's really just survive, get out there, get my points, win the match.
And Adam, actually, you were one of 2 Riddle wrestlers at 141 pounds who was in that tournament. The other one was, hopefully I'm going to get his name right here, Yoshi Funakashi. Did I get that right, Coach?
Yoshi Funakoshi.
Yoshi Funakoshi, thank you. Yoshi finished 5th. Adam, you came in 8th place there. So just talk about what your time was like at the CCC tournament last weekend.
You know, they say the Cascade Conference is like the Big Tens of the NAIA, and it really is. You know, there were 6 spots, and there were 8 guys that probably should have been ranked, right? And I got 8th. You know, that's just the reality of the situation. It was not only surviving, but having to take it to these guys and having to beat guys that had taken it to me earlier in the year. And, you know, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it done, but we got the bid, and that's all that matters. It's a tough tournament, and 6 matches in a tournament where most other conferences, it's one day. They wrestled 1 good guy, 2 good guys, and 3 matches total. Like, it was a weekend full of wrestling, and I'm glad I got that experience before going into the national tournament.
Yeah. So Landon, just talk about what were some of the things you guys did in order to prepare yourselves for the CCC championship tournament.
Yeah, so as a team, we knew that we needed to get on our offense early and just get out there and start scoring points immediately. And so we really just pushed the pace a lot in that last week, preparing for the tournament, getting to our shots and our takedowns as soon as we can in that match, and just keeping the pressure up throughout the match.
And, of course, Adam, over the course of the regular season, you get to see some of the other Cascade Collegiate Conference teams in action. You either wrestle the other 141-pounders yourself, or you get to see them from the bench and what they do. So what was kind of your mentality going into your matches, especially against guys who you've probably wrestled previously?
Well, we talk about going out there, scoring points, and having fun. But in the postseason, it's about, you know, if you're wrestling a guy that on paper is better than you, then keep it close and win your moments. You know, I'm not trying to expose myself. I'm not trying to give up free points. I'm trying to be stingy and just wrestle a hard 7 minutes.
And Coach, I guess to show just how prestigious the CCC is, when the NAIA came out with the number of allocations for each conference for the national tournament. 47 allocations went to the Cascade Collegiate Conference, and that's actually the most out of any conference in the NAIA. I think you beat out the Great Southwest Athletic Conference by 1 allocation, and Great Southwest, that's where you have Grandview University, which has won, I don't know, a gazillion national championships in their time.
Yeah, we generally have the most allocations, usually actually in the 50s, but we had a couple guys, 5-6 guys in the conference that were ranked late in the season go out with injuries. So that kind of takes a couple of those allocations away, gives them to another conference. So, yeah, I mean, 47 leading the country in allocations, but at the same time probably should have been 52, 53. Like Adam said, you know, we had weights at 141, could have had 8 guys ranked, probably really should have. And it shows, you know, we do the at-large bids. You know, Adam goes in as the number 2 guy getting votes. 49 4 bids, which was ridiculous. We had 6 bids the week before, and then we dropped to 4. And Christian Lopez gets the at-large bid. He gets a number 1 vote from every voter for the at-large. So that kind of just shows where we should have had 2, 3, 4 more just at those 2 weights, and that puts us over 50. So yeah, definitely it's a tough tournament. It's a grinder.
Yeah. And then of course you go back to the tournament last weekend. As I said, 3 champions. You had Jaden Luttrell, Daniil Gorshkov, and Kenny Copley winning championships. And like you said, Kenny Copley was named the tournament's most outstanding wrestler. So just talk about the accomplishments of those 3 guys bringing home those conference titles.
So none of those guys were seeded number 1. Jaden had to beat a guy in the finals that beat him in the duel. Daniil had to beat a guy who beat him in the duel. Kenny, there was an upset on the other side of the bracket, but we were the 2 seed. So and Kenny won that. He beat that guy every time we've wrestled him, but he was the number 2 seed. So none of our champs were the number 1 seed going into that tournament. So wrestled well. Did we win all the fights? No, but we did enough to get us where we needed to be.
Yeah, and like I said, 2 runners up. Landon unfortunately had to forfeit the championship match due to a medical issue, but also you had Trenton Bloomquist at 197 pounds, who was runner up in his class.
Yeah, Landon was the number 1 seed. We just got to that. Like I said, you get to that match, and if you're banged up a little bit, he wasn't the only one that took a medical forfeit in the finals, making sure that they're healthy for the national tournament. Trenton, we call him Chewy. So he got to the finals. Actually came out against, I think, ranked 4th in the country. The other guy was, and had a great takedown. Had a good match going. Just kind of got a little bit in trouble and maybe went to the desperation stuff a little bit early in the match instead of keeping himself in the match for a little bit longer, and it cost him. But hopefully lessons learned, and we'll move on and we'll get going in Wichita.
Yeah. And Landon, obviously this time of year, given the physicality of wrestling, no one is 100%. Everyone's banged up, bruised up, whatever. So when you get to this point in the season, what are some of the things you have to do in order to kind of push through whatever ailments you have to try to succeed?
Yeah, so a lot of it is going in and seeing the trainers and getting treatment done, whether that's stretching, cupping, just them helping you relax those muscles so that you recover better. And it's just knowing what positions can work for you. I'm not going to put myself in a dangerous position in practice or out in a match where I can get hurt again. I'm going to try to stay away from those positions. And so being able to do that and know what works for me in practice and what works out on the mat is what I'm really trying to focus on.
Now, Adam, you were a national qualifier last year for Embry-Riddle. You're also a runner-up at the CCC championship tournament. In your experiences last year, obviously, like I said, I'm sure you were banged up, bruised up, had all kinds of ailments and soreness and everything. So what were some of the things that you did last year in order to kind of push through all that to be as successful as you could be at both the conference and national championship tournaments?
So last year it was more of a mental thing. There was a time in the season last year where I broke. Coach had to have the hard conversation with me, and I didn't necessarily respond the best. It was about mentally fixing myself and getting where I needed to be, and then, have a great conference tournament. And I think that's kind of where I peaked. I didn't have the national tournament I wanted to have, but, it was a big breakthrough season for me. This year, I've been dealing with a little bit more physical injuries, and, everything Landon said is absolutely correct, right? It's about, taking recovery into your own hands, seeing the trainers being proactive, and you could wrestle on an injury. You just have to wrestle differently. But also, I just think about the quote Uncle Chael said, the problem isn't my knee. The problem isn't my shoulder. The problem that it's inside of a coward. And I got to do everything in my power not to be a coward and fight through it and, wrestle with it. Not wrestle in spite of it, not use it as an excuse.
All right. Well, folks, in the studio with me today, I've got Casey Rock, head coach of the Embry-Riddle wrestling team. I've also got 2 of his grapplers, Landon Smith and Adam Stanley. We'll talk more with these guys on the other side of the break, but before we go to break, as always, it's time to see who shined over the past 7 days as we present the Tri-City Sports Roundup 3 Stars of the Week. Starting with the ladies, our number 3 star is Claire Streeter of the Embry-Riddle softball team. She threw a one-hitter, striking out 8 in the Lady Eagles' 5-0 win over Oklahoma Panhandle State last Friday. The number 2 star is Addie Prisciandero of the Prescott basketball team. She notched 29 points in the Lady Badgers' 65-27 win over Bradshaw Mountain in the state tournament Thursday. And our number 1 star of the week is Gianna May of the Prescott wrestling team. She was the state runner-up in her weight class at the state tournament last Saturday. Now for the guys, our number 3 star is Riley Nolet of the Bradshaw Mountain wrestling team. He was the runner-up in his weight class at the state meet last Saturday. The number 2 stars are, it's a tie for number 2 this week. The number 2 stars are Jaden Luttrell and Daniil Gorshkov of the Embry-Riddle wrestling team. Both were champions in their weight classes at the Cascade Collegiate Conference Championship Tournament last Saturday. And our number 1 star of the week is Kenny Copley of the Embry-Riddle wrestling team. He was also champion last week in his weight class, which was heavyweight. Not only that, He was also named the tournament's most outstanding wrestler at the Cascade Collegiate Conference Championship Tournament last Saturday. Congratulations to all our 3 stars of the week. Break time here in the Roundup. We'll be back after this. We are back here in the Tri-City Sports Roundup. Thanks for joining us here this morning. By the way, programming note, coming up at 6 p.m. tonight over on our sports station, the team, 1450 AM KNOT, we will have the Elite 8 of the girls basketball state tournament. Number 2 seed Prescott. They will be taking on number 10 Eastmark. Again, that'll be 6 p.m. tonight over on the team, 1450 AM KNOT. You can also listen to us online at theteam1450.com, and you can also listen to us anywhere on your mobile device by downloading the Team 1450 app from the Apple Store. Well, in the studio with us today, we're talking wrestling. We've got Casey Rock, head coach of the Embry-Riddle wrestling team, along with 2 of his grapplers. We got Landon Smith and Adam Stanley. And before we start asking more about wrestling with these guys, let's find out a little bit more about their teammates. It's time for Lightning Round. And this week, because I was in one of my rare nice guy moods, I decided to let Landon and Adam know about Lightning Round before we get going. Like, for anyone new to the show, sometimes I like to spring it as a surprise on our guests. Again, it just depends on my mood. Do I feel good? Do I feel evil? I don't know. Today I was feeling good. So anyway, Landon, I'm going to start with you. Who would you say on Embry-Riddle is the best dressed guy on the team? Who's the team fashion plate?
Best dressed? I'm going to have to go with Christian Lopez.
Oh, okay. Adam, who would you say is probably the funniest guy on the team? Who would be the team comedian for Riddle?
Thomas Stottle.
Oh, boy, didn't even have to think of that. Okay. Landon, most serious guy on the team?
Kenny Copley.
Oh, okay. Adam, who would you say is the most talkative guy on the team? The guy that's like, no matter what you do, you can't get him to shut up.
Sam.
Just
Sam Humphrey.
Just chatterbox, huh?
Before practice, yep.
Okay. Landon, we're going to go opposite here. Who is probably the quietest guy on Riddle?
Oh, that's no doubt Tao.
Tao doesn't have a last name. He's
Yeah.
just Tao.
Tao. Oh, basically kind of like, Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Adam, who, sometimes this is a tough one for wrestlers because they got to watch your weight and make weight during the season. Who on Embry-Riddle can eat the most in one sitting?
Kenny Copley.
Well, the heavyweight, I guess that would make sense. But Coach, you said that there's another one who kind of dovetails into that category. Not really the most who can eat the most in one sitting, but who can eat the most leftovers.
Yeah, we do. Daniil, he'll hang around, and if you don't finish your plate and you don't get it in a box to go real quick, it's gonna be gone. He'll reach over with a fork and take that stuff off your plate and eat it. So
does he ask permission, or is it just
No.
like, oh, he's not eating, I'll take it?
no, I don't know that he's ever asked permission. He just kind of waits for you to turn your head, and next thing you know, it's gone.
Jeez.
So watch out for your T-shirts too. He might take that.
Oh.
No, he's a good guy. We tease him, but
Well, Mr. T-shirt collector over here, I gotta make sure that my T-shirts are okay around this guy. Jeez. Oh man, Daniil. All right. So Landon, now you come to Embry-Riddle all the way from Bethel, Alaska, which for most of you don't know, that's kind of in the western part of the state. But I guess for Alaska, kind of a big town. 6,000 people there. Which when I saw it on a map, I was like, really? There's that many people there?
Yeah. Yeah, coming from out there, wrestling isn't the biggest sport, but it is one of our better sports, I'd say. And my coach in high school, he's been running the program for quite a few years now, and he's just built us up over the years. And so it's been really good. We've had a really good foundation. In the state, we've been really good, and we've always sent a few of us wrestlers down to tournaments in the lower 48 to compete. So I had a good foundation for wrestling.
And of course, an incredible career there at Bethel High School. You were a 4-time state champion at Bethel. And when I was doing my research here, I found this incredible. You are one of just 17 high school wrestlers in the history of Alaska who have won 4 state championships. So, I mean, just talk about what it took to have that kind of accomplishment.
Yeah, coming in as a freshman and sophomore in high school, those were, I think, the 2 biggest years where I really had to work for it. Freshman, I really had to prove myself. I had a few losses that year to some guys that had been there for a few years. And so just really learning from those experiences and applying them back onto the mat to beat them later on in the state tournament was something that really I had to take into account. And then sophomore year, it was just proving myself again. That year went a lot better, but it was just, I'm still this guy. I could still do this. I've got all the moves. I can still do it. Mm-hmm. As far as a junior and senior year, COVID kind of played a role in those, so they weren't quite as big of years. And so junior year was really affected. We only had a few tournaments. I think we had like a 3-week season where we went our regionals and then into the state tournament. And so that was a very small state bracket where not a whole lot of people competed. So it was kind of given that year. And then senior year, we were pretty much back to normal. And so that was just another year of go out there. I'm still this guy. I know how to wrestle. You guys have to take it to me.
All right. And, of course, along with your 4 state championships, you were also named a Dave Schultz you also got the Dave Schultz High School Excellence Award. And, Coach, that's an award you can talk a little more about here because it goes back to a man who was unfortunately murdered in a. I know in my neck of the woods that was a very high profile incident where Dave Schultz was murdered.
Yeah, Dave was he was probably the most intellectual, strategically sound U.S. wrestler of all time. Multiple world and Olympic medals. Was just a crazy good technician, inventor of different positions and different moves in the sport. And yeah, he was at a back east, just outside of Philadelphia. There was a big training camp there called Foxcatcher, and yeah, he was shot. I believe late February 1996. So yeah, I can remember where I was the day that everybody got the news. This was before really the internet. So it was kind of maybe found out a day or two later. But, crazy thing. So the Dave Schultz Award is named after him. Every state has a Dave Schultz Award winner in both male and female wrestlers, and it's wrestling, it's academics, it's your community service type stuff, and then after all those are done, there's one national Dave Schultz Award winner.
Yeah.
Pretty cool award.
Oh, definitely. And congratulations for you on getting that one for Alaska, Landon.
Thank you.
Now, Adam, your path to Embry-Riddle Wrestling, was it as normal as, say, a lot of your other teammates, or you look at them, it's like, they were this place, or they were this state champion, did this and did that? Actually, during your high school career at Cavalry Chapel in Costa Mesa, you were telling me before the show that you never placed at state when you were a high school wrestler, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I had no business being a college wrestler. I transferred to Calvary my junior year, made varsity that year, and never qualified to state. Kept a losing record. And then senior year, I lost my spot to a kid who ended up going D1. And, I quit the team for a few days, and my coach came to my house and was like, this is going to be the biggest regret of your life. You got to keep going. Just keep your options open, and, every opportunity is a good one. You should chase it. And then I found out about Embry-Riddle. I could continue with the academics because I've always been good in the classroom, and I was unfortunately allowed to walk on. Emailed coach and took that, leap of faith. And even when I was here, right, the first 3 years, I wasn't where I wanted to be. There are other walk-ons on the team, and some of them hit the ground running like Jonah. They did amazing, and I was kind of left in the back. And I remember one summer coach said something that stuck with me because there was no more excuses, right? I was a 17-year-old freshman in college the entire first year. And there was always an excuse for everything. But coach, that summer going into my true senior year, he said, don't pee down my back and tell me it's raining. And I was like, that's real. I have to actually do something about it. I talk about it all the time, but I have to do something about it. And I hit the gym, lived in the wrestling room, and had a breakout year last year and was able to make the team the last 2 years. And, it's been worth it.
Yeah. And again, just looking at your bio, folks, this is what some of the accomplishments that Adam had last season. Qualified for the national tournament, runner-up at the Cascade Collegiate Conference Championship tournament, made the all-conference team. Second time he got NAIA Scholar All-American. And how about this for his record for last year? As a Rush fan, I love this. 21-12. The priests of the temples of Syrinx certainly enjoy that. You're looking at me going, what are you talking about?
Oh, I know Rush.
Okay, yes, yes. Bump it. Oh, heck yeah.
I hope TJ Hall's listening too.
So Coach, when you look at Adam here, what he accomplished, or maybe not saying things needs to be me, but didn't accomplish in high school, comes to Riddle and goes through all that and has his breakout season last year. Just what are some of your impressions of Adam and his progression since he got to Riddle?
Yeah, we were joking before the show started, and Adam said, he didn't have any business being a college wrestler, and I said, yeah, Coach Rock will take anybody on the team for the first 2 weeks of the season. And that's kind of what it was. I mean, Adam called me, and I was, yeah, sure, wrestling's been great to me. I don't want to stop an opportunity for a kid to keep wrestling. Obviously, there's been a few where we've had to say, I think you're going to end up paralyzed if you keep doing this type of a thing. So, Adam's a great story. He's right. 3 years. And I've told Adam this story, 3 years of wrestling, and it's like, this guy's just not, he's a hard worker. I wish that he would be good at wrestling, but it's just not happening. He called me over the summer. And he said, hey, Coach, I'm going to make the team. I want to be in the top 12. What do you think about going 133? And I was like, well, how much do you weigh? What's your body fat? No, you're not going to be able to go 133. You need to stay at 41. So he stayed there. August comes around, beginning of September, I start buying plane tickets for the season. And every plane trip that we got on, I had to change a name. And put Adam on there. I didn't have him on any plane tickets. I'll be completely honest. I didn't have him slated in and being one of those guys. Comes out the first tournament of the year, bang bang, ends up third. First rankings come out, lands himself in the rankings. Now I'm like, all right, I gotta start looking at plane tickets and who's not going because Adam's going. And so it was just a great story. You know, he had some downs in that season. We had a couple talks. You know, ones I don't enjoy having, but are necessary. Ones that sometimes the guys don't enjoy getting, but are necessary. And Adam turned it around. You know, beginning of January, he was in a valley. Beginning of February, he's on a mountaintop. So, great story. You know, it just shows what kind of guy he is. What, you know, his perseverance in the sport of wrestling, and what the sport of wrestling can do for guys and do for individuals.
All right, well, way to go, Adam. Just way to fight through it and everything, because I think a lot of kids would just, you know, give up and quit. So I think that speaks volumes of your character, and hopefully, you know, there are other athletes out there who are going to listen to this show and, you know, maybe take some inspiration from you, man.
You just got to love it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And so, Landon, now you are a aeronautical science major, so what got you into that field?
Yeah, being way out in Western Alaska, we have to fly everywhere. So I kind of just grew up with it, flying to all my wrestling tournaments or going to see family. Just anywhere I had to go, we had to fly. So that's what got me started into it.
Okay. And Adam, you're an aerospace engineering major, so what got you into that?
Well, I always like building Legos, and I thought rocket ships were pretty cool. So I figured, you know, I'm good at math, I'm good at science and engineering. You know, I have an aptitude for that, so let's continue with it.
Okay. So what are your plans for after graduation?
I need to get a JOB and start paying taxes.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, you know, any kind of particular place you're thinking of going, or just anywhere that'll hire you?
Anywhere that'll hire me. You know, I've made a lot of sacrifices. You know, wrestling is a full-time commitment, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to get the internships. You know, whether that's my fault or whether it's not, you know, I'm just looking for an opportunity.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Landon, what about you? What are your plans for after Riddle?
Yeah, there's still some certificates that I'd need to become a commercial pilot to fly the airlines, but it'd be time building. So I'd have to go back and help teach the next generation of pilots to get my hours before I can make it to the airlines.
Okay. And, well, speaking of the airlines and flyings, you'll be flying out to Wichita, Kansas next week for the NAIA championship tournament, Coach.
Yeah, we leave Tuesday out of Prescott International Airport, or regional, one of the two. So, yeah, we're headed to Wichita. 9 guys going. We're excited. We got 6 guys seated. I think are in the top 11. And we got 2 guys who have top 10 wins going into the tournament. So, and then we've got Jaron, who has been in the rankings this year, kind of in and out, kind of casualty of injuries a little bit during the season, and it's tough. It's tough when you're the number 2 guy behind the, you know, top 5 guy in the country. You don't get all the matches all the time. So we're excited about the 9 guys we have going.
All right. Well, Coach, I want to thank you, and Landon, Adam, want to thank you guys for joining us here on Tri-City Sports Roundup. Hey, best luck to all you guys at the national tournament next week.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.
All right. And again, folks, Prescott girls basketball versus Eastmark Elite 8 of State over on our sports station, the team, 1450 AM KNOT, tonight at 6 p.m. Well, thank you very much for joining us, folks. We will see you again next week here on the Roundup. Have yourselves a good one.